Nowadays, people know the price of everything and the value of nothing. That is a quote from Oscar Wilde, and that quote from Oscar Wilde, quite honestly, is very fitting for today's podcast, which is entitled People Over Profits. We live in a world now where everything that we do, every business that we visit, everywhere we look, we see pretty much one focus, and that focus is revenue. That focus is profits. Every large company that we see, from the Amazons of the world, the Walmarts of the world, efficiency and a focus 100% in many cases on the bottom line. Revenue, revenue, revenue. And what happens is that people, which support the business from a revenue standpoint, people who support the business from a service standpoint, find themselves, quite honestly, being shunned in many cases. How many of us have actually walked into a retail establishment and the cashier or the individual working the sales floor doesn't even acknowledge your presence? How many of us have experienced that? How does that make you feel? And if we choose to stand there, if we choose to yet spend our money there, then quite honestly, we are aiding the problem. We are aiding and abetting and encouraging that type of behavior. Profits. Companies all over the place are focused 100% on profits, and you and I as consumers, you and I as those that are in need of a particular service, we quite honestly suffer as a direct result of that company placing profits over people. Today we want to take a look at four ways that for us, those of us that are entrepreneurs, those of us that are small business owners, those of us who are thinking about going into business, we want to discuss four ways today where we can help break that cycle. We can break that cycle that we see in a lot of big box companies like Walmart. We see this same attitude, this same apathy, this same lethargic attitude about dealing with customers. We see it all over the place. We see it in several mom and pop restaurants. We see it in several small businesses. How can we break the cycle where people are placed over profit? I tell you, I'm a firm believer that if we place people over profits, the profits will come. Why? Because people realize that they are first. People realize that they are being supported. People realize that their business is appreciated. The profits will come if we place people over profits. So again, today we want to take a look at four ways that we can break this vicious cycle. And what cycle am I talking about? The cycle that I'm talking about is the fact that many years ago, I'm not necessarily going to say many years ago, but the majority of businesses that open their doors today start out by being customer focused. They start out with a mission plan that is built around and formed around the consumer. Businesses that start out realize that, hey, the consumer, the customer supports my business. But over time, we see a gradual decline in customer service. We see a gradual decline in our customers feeling appreciated. We see a gradual decline in people not being valued. Why? Because that business, that company, that small business, that nonprofit in some cases, is focused more on the bottom line rather than people. So the very first thing that we can do as small business owners, the very first thing that we can do as entrepreneurs, the very first thing that we can do as a startup is not to forget why we started the company. Why did we go into business? Yes, we know that the end goal, quite honestly, is to make a revenue. But in many cases, a lot of us start businesses. Why? Because we want to help people. We want to be that voice, if you will. We want to be an advocate for people. We cannot forget why we started the company. So step one, the very first thing that we can do to avoid finding ourselves, just giving in to this vicious cycle where we're placing efficiency and profits over people, is not to forget why we actually started your company. Just pause for a moment and think. Maybe you've been in business for 1 year. Maybe you've been in business for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever the case may be. Do you actually remember why you started your company? Do you remember what it felt like to write down your mission statement? Have you found that, hey, here it is a year later, 2 years later, 36 months later? Do you find yourself moving away from that mission? Do you find yourself moving away from the why? So again, the very first step that we can do to break this cycle where we actually can place people over profit, number one, again, is not to forget why. Why you started your company. Number two, and you would think that this is common sense, you would think that this is common practice, but if you look at our world right now, I don't know. Number two, recognize the value of people. Do we value those individuals who shop online on our websites? Do we value those individuals who choose to come by our brick and mortar location and make a purchase? Do we value those individuals who walk into our restaurants and sit at a table and eat the food that we cook for from our mom and pop restaurants? Do we value individuals that walk into our small coffee shops? Do we value people? I'm here to tell you, friend, that if we truly value people, if we truly care about people, care about what that person feels, what that person thinks, that individual, quite honestly, recognizes that they are being appreciated. They recognize that, hey, this business actually values me as an individual. You'll find that they keep coming back to your business. Why? Because people want to be appreciated. And one thing that I find is that people are loyal, customers are loyal if they are valued. Do you value their time? Do you value their opinion? Do you value the money that they choose to spend in your particular business? So number two, in placing people over profits, is quite honestly value them. As I said earlier, what happens in many cases, companies and businesses choose to focus wholeheartedly on the marketing. They choose wholeheartedly to spend money and to get people coming into the establishment. But once the people come into the establishment, they don't take care of the people. They don't value the customer. To keep that customer who just walked in, to keep that individual coming back to your business. So recognize the value of people. People, again, want to be valued. People want to be appreciated. Quite honestly, and this is not meant to be weird, but people desire to be loved. And when we take care of people, when we take care and value people, we'll find that that can help break the cycle where we as business owners can place people over profits. Number three, understand that being upfront and honest is still the best policy. Being upfront and honest is still the best policy. I'm reminded a few years ago, there was a new tablet that hit the market, and I've shared this story in some circles before. I'm not really sure if I've shared this circle here on the podcast, but this was during Christmas time, and a new tablet hit the market. I went out, purchased the tablet for 2 of my 4 children, right? 2, yes, I have 4 children. So two of my 4 children were to receive this tablet for Christmas. And what's amazing is that Christmas morning comes around, and everyone is excited. Everyone wants to open up their Christmas gifts. And my 2 children opened up this particular gift, turned it on, and could not use it. Why? Because so many people had purchased this same gift, it actually crashed the company's platform, crashed it on Christmas morning. God awful experience for my kids. And they're looking at me like, dude, you suck, right? But what I took from that is that, of course, I immediately got online and began to do research and got on social media and saw that, hey, myself and my children were not the only ones, that pretty much everyone that purchased this particular device experienced the same thing, right? The crap didn't work. But understanding that honesty is still always the best policy, the president and CEO of the company got on social media and admitted the problem. He apologized emphatically for the problem, stated that he would do whatever he could to remedy the problem. He gained a loyal customer after that. Those tablets, my kids still have those tablets. Why? Because I didn't take them back. Why? Because he made a choice as the CEO of a company, as the president of a company. He realized and understood that honesty is always still the best policy, and he nipped the problem in the bud, not necessarily from a technical standpoint, but he did something to my psyche, if you will. As a consumer, he did something for me by admitting that, hey, yep, we have a problem. We recognize the problem, and we are going to effectively deal with the problem. So understanding honesty is still always the best policy. Again, enables us to break that policy and allows us to place people over profits. People over profits. Number 4, and this is something that I see a lot of. Number 4 is be generous without intention of getting something in return. I'm going to repeat that. Be generous without intention of getting something in return. Do we truly enjoy helping our fellow man? Do we truly enjoy helping those individuals who are either A, less fortunate than you, maybe B, not as educated as you, maybe C, doesn't understand anything as well as you? Maybe you are a subject matter expert in a particular field or in a particular or on a particular subject. But do we value people? Do we try to help these individuals out without the intention of getting something in return? Or do we always come with our hand out saying, pay me, pay me, pay me? Now we recognize and we realize that revenue drives the business. Your business will not sustain itself if there is not adequate revenue coming into the business. We understand that. I get that. But I believe that we still can place people over profits by being generous without intention of getting something in return. I'm not saying lay down and be and write the word welcome on your back or on your chest or whatever, but be generous without intention of getting something in return. What Greg Wilson has found, what I have found, is that individuals will support your business, individuals will come to you for help, individuals will reach out to you on social media. Why? Because they realize that you are generous, and they realize that you are not looking necessarily for something in return. I've gotten clients that way. I've gotten business that way. Why? Again, because generous, and there's absolutely no intention of getting something in return. We're talking today about placing people over profits. Everywhere again that we look, just choose a location. It's no secret that I enjoy Starbucks. I went into a Starbucks location this morning. I walked in. No one said, welcome to Starbucks. No one, when I went up to the counter, saw the same barista today or this morning that I saw yesterday morning. I was not greeted by name. We're living in a time now where, again, it's profit, profit, profit. Over to my left, there was the mobile order counter, right? The mobile order process of Starbucks, I believe that it is pretty darn cool. It's pretty cool. You can order from your phone as like you're driving on your way to Starbucks. They make the drink, you come inside, you've already paid